everyone. Hello, Richard. Thank you so much. We're very honored to have you with us today, where we'll be asking you a lot of questions related to the real estate industry. And you working in one of the, I think, the most popular and the most famous real estate company in Dubai, Better Homes. I think literally everyone knows Better Homes. I think this is the #1 famous real estate company, and you are a group managing director of this company. Thank you, Richard. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you for having me, and nice to speak to everybody.
Thank you, thank you. Richard, we have gathered the questions based on a lot of people. They were sending us different questions that are very interested for them, and we decided, okay, let's release these questions. We know that Better Homes is a very successful company, and while a lot of real estate companies are closing down, Better Homes, it's still there in the market, and it is like something like a proven quality and a proven professionalism. This is how I was perceiving Better Homes, how I was seeing Better Homes, and I know a lot of my friends, they think the same about Better Homes. By the way, I have been dealing with one of your agent for myself, and the service was really great. I can later on give you the name of the agent.
Good, because it would have been a fairly difficult start to the conversation if it hadn't been.
Yeah. And Richard, you won't believe, we have been dealing with several agents, and my wife said, this guy, he was really, really good.
Who was it? Do you remember the name?
I will send you the name.
Good man. Yeah, do.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear, we
Richard,
are open for referrals, for reviews, both good, bad, and ugly. So,
Perfect.
Send me the name.
Great. Richard, very, very, very important, very interesting question, because with the ongoing COVID-19, what do you think in general about current real estate situation? What do you think?
In terms of specifically with regards to COVID? Yeah?
Correct, yeah.
I've been in real estate now for about 18 years, and the COVID-19, probably like most industries, it is a fairly new experience. We were motoring on very, very nicely, thank you very much, in January, February, and March. And there's a few people I can see on here, the Fintons and Co, who we were enjoying a good market. It was busy, lots of buyers, prices were starting to stabilise, transaction numbers crucially were on the way up. And along came COVID-19, and pretty much from the first week of March, by probably the third week of March, the whole world had turned upside down. And then we went into April. And real estate really, during April, in many ways, had to, quite rightly, follow guidelines and shut down. So we went into full lockdown from the company's point of view. We weren't out doing viewings. We weren't out listing properties. We weren't doing photos. So during that period, it was very challenging. We obviously tried to lean on as much digitalisation as we possibly could. We got some deals through with the land department, got some transactions through the land department on the digital process, which was good. But the real estate market went into lockdown just as every other industry did. Since then, we all, I think, expected a little bit of a bounce back, particularly in leasing. You'll naturally have 4 or 5 weeks worth of people looking to move house that get concertinaed into quite a short period of time because they didn't move during lockdown. And we expected a bit of a bounce back. But I think, Ahmed, we've been surprised by how much the market has returned over the last 4 weeks and how resilient it's been. If we take into account that during the last 4 weeks we've had Ramadan hours, then Eid, our May result was in many ways surprisingly good. We've had, in particular in leasing, we've had a lot of people come back to the market. And I think you've probably seen this in the press. It's been fairly well documented, but we've had a lot of people now coming back and looking at their home, looking at where they're living. And we were talking yesterday to some of our staff. People's views on their home, I think, has shifted during lockdown. It's no longer just somewhere you go home, put your head down. It's where we raise our family. It's where we've been working. It's where we've been educating. It's where we've been doing our fitness. It's where we've been doing our socializing. And I think that's really focused people's minds on real estate over the last 4 or 5 weeks. And the result of that, which is slightly against what you might expect in a situation like this, has been that the property market has done relatively well in terms of transaction numbers, in terms of volume numbers, in terms of lead numbers. Not necessarily in terms of prices, certainly, but yeah, I think most people in my situation will be pleasantly surprised by how resilient the market has been over this last period. I do realise I think it is too early to say what the sort of mid to long term implications of COVID-19 is going to have on the economy, and real estate is widely linked obviously to the economy and jobs and population over here. So I think it's a little bit too early to sort of get the champagne bottles popping. But you know, if somebody asked me 8 weeks ago or offered me the situation we're in now 8 weeks ago, I think I would have certainly taken it. So yeah, in all, some reasons to be encouraged in the market at the moment, I think.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Richard, for example, let's say during COVID-19 time, better homes in general had lesser transactions, right, than before?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
I see.
So I mean, when we went into lockdown, transaction numbers dropped by about 90%.
90%?
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah, so our leasing numbers dropped by 90%, our sales numbers, transactional numbers went to 0 for 3 weeks. We didn't get a transaction through for, I think, 3.5 weeks. Our leasing numbers dropped by about 90%. They've returned, and in the first 2.5 weeks of May, we actually did more transactions than we did in the first 2.5 weeks of May 2019. So when you came out of lockdown, we made up some of the lost ground, not all of it, but we made up some of the lost ground, and transactions have been solid since. Obviously, Eid is always a slightly funny week, but yeah, so real heavy drop, 90% drop for 4 weeks, but transactions in May, as I say, sort of recovered pretty strongly.
Brilliant. What do you think, Richard? What to sell and where to invest? Primary companies that are highly focusing on primary market selling off plans, and there are other companies, I think, like Better Homes, who are very strong in secondary market.
Yeah, but we're a fairly well hedged business. You know, we have primary. We've got a primary market team. So I've got 13 dedicated off-plan sales team, and then most secondary market sales and leasing. We've got a commercial team, dedicated commercial team. We've got a big property management team. So we try and cover all aspects of the property market. So we're not reliant on one area, I suppose, is the point of that. Where do I think the market is at the moment? I think undoubtedly off-plan has had a very good few years and enjoyed a good number of years. But off-plan has been predominantly driven by overseas investment. Now, the difficulty with overseas investment when nobody's flying anywhere is you don't become overseas. You have to become you're buying from afar. And whilst that is possible, and there are sales being done, and we are putting a few off-plan deals together with overseas buyers who aren't here, there is still a desire, and a lot of the buyers we're talking to, a lot of investors we're talking to, the demand for that is a little bit pent up until they can get on a plane, they can get back over it. So we're still in touch with a lot of people, we're still speaking to a lot of investors abroad, and I think when the flights start again, that will pick up. Now, you asked where would I invest, or where do you think where to invest, off-plan or secondary? I think it really, for me, it depends on individual opportunities. Of course it does, but it depends on circumstances, your strategy of investment, both on the way in and on the way out. So the biggest difference, I guess, between off-plan and secondary, historically, was obviously off-plan was something for the future. There are a lot of off-plan projects at the moment that are pretty much ready and raring to go, and you can buy properties direct from developers at the moment that are absolutely ready to move into. But the biggest difference between off-plan and the secondary market, as most people on here understand, will be your down payment. You know, how much money do you have to put into the property at the start? So for those people looking to invest and take advantage of what is probably in my view, a strong investment period, taking advantage of what's happening, but you don't have a huge amount of down payment, then off-plan is still a great place to look at. There's some very, very good opportunities in off-plan. Developers are a little bit more open to discussing price with you now than they were 8 weeks ago. And we've seen over the last 2 years some really, really interesting and innovative options and offers that developers brought to the market to try and get themselves a little bit on parity. Now, the flip side, of course, is if you've got cash today, where will you find the best price per square foot deal in the market? It's almost guaranteed to be in the secondary market. It's almost guaranteed to be from somebody who has either purchased something off plan and can't commit to payments and needs to sell it themselves, or somebody in a in a more established neighbourhood that's looking to sell at the market. So it really depends on your situation, what you're looking to buy, and how you're looking to get in. But I think there are good opportunities in both.
For example, let's say those people who will watch this video later on, or watching now, or this interview is going to be published, the text of this interview, would you, for example, I heard some people saying that I don't think it is safe. What could you say to these people? Buying off plan, I heard that it's not really safe.
Look, I think if you're buying off plan anywhere in the world, you need to do your due diligence. That's just the way of the world. If you're going to invest anything, you should do some due diligence. In off plan, that due diligence should both be around the project you're looking at, the developer you're looking at, and also, frankly, the broker you are talking to with regards to that. Okay, because not all buildings are built alike, not all developers develop alike, and not all brokerages are alike. So you need to do your due diligence. But I think there are developments and the developers in Dubai, and I don't really want to go down naming them in person, but there are developments and developers in Dubai who've got very, very good track records. The DLD has taken huge steps since the crash of 2008, 2009 to ensure that development and developers' money is held in escrow and is spent appropriately to the correct timelines that should give give investors a real sense of confidence in regards to the investment they're making. Now, that said, the markets move, markets go up and markets go down. I've always taken, in my 18 years in this, I've always taken a long-term view on property. I took a long-term view on property back in 2005, 2006, when most people were taking a 5-week view on property. And I think if you take a long-term view on property, both here and elsewhere, in the vast majority of cases, property turns out to be an extremely good investment. And I think anybody looking to invest today, both in the secondary market or in the primary market, they should be looking at that long-term view. Because I really do think the value to be found in today's market here in Dubai, across the UAE, from both a geographical point of view, if you put it up against other world cities, and a historical point of view, you look at where prices have been and could go back to, I think shows real value. So whilst no investment is without its risk, no investment in anything is without its risk, I think you do your due diligence and and then you move ahead with something you feel comfortable with doing so.
Great, thank you, Richard. For example, let's say tenants right now are having a certain struggle with the landlords, and the landlords are having the same struggle with tenants. So I know that one owner who is complaining that all his tenants asking discounts on their rents. What could you advise to tenants and the landlords right now?
So we're having a lot of this in property management at the moment. Tenants are obviously under pressure. Some have lost jobs. Many people have been asked to take pay reductions. But at the same time, landlords are under pressure. Landlords have been seeing revenues and rents drop over the last 5-6 years. And they're also feeling the pressure from the market. So I think what really needs to be done is these situations need to be taken on a case-by-case basis. Landlords, like all businesses, so a landlord, particularly a large landlord, a building landlord, a portfolio landlord, it's a business, and like any business at the moment, you need to be looking at what you can do to reduce your costs, what you can do to get some relief to get you through this if it's short term. So I know a lot of landlords we are dealing with have spoken to their banks, and majority of banks have been pretty sensible in terms of offering some short-term relief to landlords, which is great, and that then allows them to pass on that relief to tenants. In terms of tenants, again, I think it has to be case by case, and any tenant who has a genuine case for relief should speak to their landlord. And frankly, any landlord in the current market who sees a genuine case, I would urge to do everything they can to offer as much relief as they can to that tenant, because not only I think is that the right thing to do in this market when we're all in this together, but I also think it would be short-sighted of a landlord to move tenants out in a marketplace where, you know, a good tenant in your property at the moment should be seen as a good thing from a landlord's point of view. You know, until the flights start, people start coming back in, we have a bit of fresh impetus of new people coming into the market in terms of rentals. I think landlords should, in a sensible manner, do what they can to try and come to an agreement with tenants and keep them in the properties.
Great. For example, let's say there were, I think almost all companies, they have what I came across, that they had to handle this crisis and they reduced some salaries. And so what could you advise to employers and employees in current situation?
I think it's similar to landlords and tenants in that you need to take things on a case-by-case basis. Nobody likes to lay people off, and nobody likes to reduce salaries. That's certainly not what any business leader is in it for. However, you know, like anything in life, you need to cut your cloth accordingly. And if you're running a business, if you've got a business of several hundred people, you need to make decisions for the good of the group. And if that has meant, like you've seen many companies in Dubai and across the world, reducing salaries, even if in the short term, to protect jobs, I think that's the right thing to do. From an employee point of view, I mean, the advice I would give any employee at the moment is make sure you are adding value to your company. It's as simple as that. You know, if you are adding value and you're doing everything you possibly can to help that company get through this time, then, you know, any leader would be happy to have you, and they would value that. And obviously,
100%.
I certainly wouldn't be using this time, and I think, you know, the lockdown has been an interesting period because, you know, lockdown has been difficult for people on a very personal point of view, hasn't it? You know, it's we've been home.
I was about to divorce. I was
yeah, exactly. Well, I'm not sure I can say it here, but I was either going to get divorced or having a child. So,
nearly on the verge.
Yeah. So, you know, I've got two daughters at home. We are trying to keep them sane and keep them happy and keep them educated. At the same time, me and my wife are both working. You know, so it's been stressful. There have been positives to it. Don't get me wrong. You know, lots of time with the family, and we've rediscovered some you know, interests that we'd forgotten about because you had a bit of time. But at the same time, I think it was important during that period for employees and leaders to try and use the time as best as you can without putting too much pressure on yourself, without overbearing yourself with extra stresses in what's already a stressful period. But you know, try and utilize that time as best as possible. And certainly, you know, I can only really talk for my team. I was so impressed with how my team coped with it, how they pulled together, how they rallied, how they found ways to do business, how they came up with ideas and used the time really effectively, both on a personal front and on a business front. And we've come out of it with some really good ideas. You know, it's been a period of thinking. It's been a period of ideas. It's been a period of, you know, looking at what we're doing really sort of planning for the future. And I'm sure we'll talk about it, technology and all the rest of it. But I think that has been a good thing. We've been able to take a bit of a breather, think about the business, because sometimes you're running so fast, you never get that time to take a break and actually stop and think what we're doing.
For example, what could you advise to brokers who are watching, who are going to watch this video? What would you advise to brokers? What to do right now?
My advice to brokers right now is make the most of this market, frankly. I was in our Motor City office yesterday and I was talking to my Villa team. Now, the Villa team have seen an increase of 40% in terms of Villa leads coming over the last month, and that's against pre-COVID numbers. So we've had more people looking and inquiring for villas, for rentals and sales than we did before COVID-19. Why is that? Because, as I said earlier, people's mind are focusing on their home. They are now valuing space. They're valuing outside space. They're valuing pools. They're valuing all those things that they've been thinking about while they've been locked at home for a period of time. So my advice to those brokers was make the most of that, because people have a short memory. People's memory of lockdown, I think, will probably, we all think it's the be all and end all at the moment, but already, if you look at the news at the moment, it's no longer on the front page of the news. There are other things now on the front page of the news. And within a month, people's memory of lockdown will be a distant memory and their lives will move on. So I do think there's a short-term period of time where brokers on this call really should grasp the nettle, as it were, and really sort of try and make the most of these leads that have come through. But in a more sort of long-term view of the market, what brokers should be doing, I think undoubtedly the market over this next period of time has got some challenges, but it's also got some opportunity. And the best and busiest brokers out there, the ones who really invest in themselves, they invest in their services, they invest in their reputation, both as a brokerage and a broker, will do very, very well.
Great. Thank you, Richard. And what advice would you give to buyers and investors in current situation? Do they need to buy now, or they need to wait a little bit? Or what could be your advice to them?
My advice to investors at the moment, or even buyers, end users, we're dealing with a lot of end users, people who are either looking to trade up or they're looking to move from rental into purchasing at the moment. And again, it goes back to that view that the mindset, the mind has gone on to the home, how we value the home over this last period of time. My advice to anybody in that situation is twofold. Number one, do your due diligence, but make sure you are comfortable with what you are investing with in terms of both what you're buying and also the value you are buying it at. Okay, mm-hmm. And you need to stress test that a little bit. You need to think, okay, I can afford it now, but could I afford it should X, Y, Z happen to me, X, Y, Z happen to my wife, okay, or whoever it is. Okay, if you can and you're comfortable with the investment, you're comfortable with what you're buying, then I actually think now is a phenomenal time to be buying property. Yeah, phenomenal time. I was talking to an investor 2 days ago, and the phrase he used is this is a once in a generational time opportunity to be buying property. Now, I agree with him because...
Nice sales pitch.
Yeah, there you go, guys.
That's a nice sales pitch to tell it to...
It's a once in a generation opportunity to buy property. Now, what I mean by that is, if we say generations every 10, 12 years, well, the last time was back in the financial crisis. And I will never forget, it's a true story. So one of my favourite stories, I went to sell a house in St. John's Wood in London back in 2013. I went to see this house. It was a flat, a very large apartment. And I was speaking to the seller. And obviously one of the first questions you ask is, when did you buy the property? And he stopped and he smiled. I saw this smile get bigger and bigger and bigger. And he said, I purchased this property in the summer of 2009. And I went, oh, wow. And he went, no one was buying. So I bought this thing. and he'd made about 80% on this thing over the following 4 years.
Wow.
Now, I don't think we're in the crash of 2009. This is not the crash of 2009. But what we have got is a period now where prices, frankly, have already come down over 5 or 6 years. Value, as in terms of what you're buying, is already looking incredibly good. Plus, you have an element where undoubtedly COVID-19, the coronavirus, has added a certain element of distress to some sellers. Not all. Don't expect a wholesale drop in prices at the moment. Don't expect 10, 20, 30% coming off this market. It's not going to happen. But you will find individuals who need to sell, individuals who might need the cash out for another purchase, individuals who might need the cash out to support their business. Okay, and those opportunities are in the market at the moment. Opportunities are out there. So I think if anybody is in the position that they have both the desire and ability to buy at the moment, I'd get your skates on personally. Yeah.
Richard, would you invest yourself now?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I own property already. I think, as I say, the opportunity to buy is great. I have one slight Achilles heel to my desire to purchase at the moment, and that is the mortgage cap. So I'm squirreling together enough money to get a deposit. But beyond that challenge, and it is a challenge for people here in the buy the secondary market, certainly, and that's what we were talking earlier about the difference between the down payment in secondary and primary market. I thought it was very welcome that the DLD reduced the mortgage, the loan to value requirements for first time buyers a couple of months during lockdown, wasn't it? 6
Yeah.
I think that was very, very welcome news. But yeah, again, I take a long-term view on investment, and I take a long-term view on property. And now, from a personal point of view, I think if you were to buy a property now with a long-term view in it, it would be a smart move.
Great. Richard, what do you think? When COVID-19 will over? What do you think?
Oh, there's a question. I've no idea. Is
okay.
the short answer, though the long
one. Some people say 1 year, 2 years. What do you think?
I think obviously the answer to that really is how long does it take to find and then mass produce a working vaccine? So there's the answer. But what I think is more important is how quickly can we get used to the new normal, and how quickly can we make the new normal, both from a living point of view, as good as possible, and from a business point of view, as lucrative as possible. I think that's really probably the more important question, because I don't think we're going to be finding a cure for COVID-19 anytime soon. Now, what is good, and I do think is a very positive, is in large parts of the world, that initial pandemic wave is obviously receding. Governments have taken unprecedented, in my lifetime, decisions to lock down for the good of population, the good of health services, and we're slowly now being able to open those up, which is a real positive. And what I think we have seen since opening up is an overwhelming human desire to get out there again, to live again, with some caution and with taking sensible steps to protect ourselves, but get out there, live again, spend again, breathe again, invest again. And I think we will see that will drive return of business pretty quickly, I think, pretty quickly.
There is one interesting comment. It just happened today morning. One of the companies that we're serving as a consultancy, they were saying, it's a real estate brokerage company. Imagine they were saying, we are receiving so many inquiries that we're unable to handle them all. And the owner is saying, I'm afraid now that my sales team will start now running here and there. For example, the guy who was working in Marina, he gets an inquiry maybe for example, for downtown, and he afraid that the mess will happen that to catch every client. So this is a very positive news. This happened just today morning. I heard about this.
Yeah, I kind of goes back to my point I was saying a moment ago, though, that brokers need to take advantage of this. They need to take advantage of this, the market that is there now, because you can't see the future, I can't see the future. So anything in life, if it's a good time, don't take it for granted. Make sure you make the most of it.
Correct.
Undoubtedly, what we've seen in the last 5 weeks is a human desire to get out there, look at how we live, look at how we are working, and as best we possibly can, try and get our lives returning to a sense of new normal. And that means getting business going, getting real estate going, and all the rest of it. So I think, as I said earlier, I think I'm encouraged, very encouraged by the last 4 or 5 weeks. Very encouraged. Richard,
what do you think? Will the price go down further? What do you think?
So this is kind of hot off the press because we only finished doing the work on it this morning. We had a look at prices in leasing.
Okay.
On our data.
Okay.
So it's a data set of just over 600 leases from the few weeks before and the few weeks after lockdown. And what we've seen is a 5% decrease in agreed leasing deals on apartments, and that's on prices. We've only seen a 1% decrease on the value of deals we've done on villas. So you can see a bit of a change. Villas have fared better than apartments have fared. Now, that has been that sort of an immediate post-COVID-19 effect, where frankly, during those 3 or 4 weeks, every real estate broker worth their salt were on the phone to their landlord saying, get your price down, get your price down, get your price down. So when we could get out there and do viewings again, I can rent your property nice and quick. And I think that has had an effect and an impact. But do I think there's a sort of systemic view of price drops over this next period of time? No, I don't. I think we've already built into this market over the last 5 years real value. Prices have come down to a certain level, and there are 2 elements. There are 2 sort of handbrakes to price reductions. In leasing, it's service charges. It gets to a point where service charges, from a landlord's point of view, with other costs, you can't really go much lower. And from a seller's point of view, you've got to look at values, people, and equity within properties and mortgages. And if you can't sell, you won't sell the property for anything. And that handbrake, I think we were starting to see actually back end of 2019 as went into 2020 as price falls starts to level up. Now, there will be, as I say, opportunities in the market on an individual basis where people can pick up great deals. Absolutely, undoubtedly. But I expect that through the summer and as we go into the tail end of back end of this year, I think we will start to see a real recovery in transactions and demand, and off the back of that, a more stable view on prices. I think one of the biggest issues that we've had in pricing over the last 5 or 6 years has obviously been supply, and I would imagine that we see a reduction in the advent of new supply coming onto the market over this year and next year.
Brilliant. Thank you, Richard. I would like to say to all participants, you can keep sending the questions, not in general chat. You can send it to the host or to myself as a private message. So then we will ask Richard anonymous questions. Okay. Okay, Richard, your forecast for the next 1 to 3 years for Dubai's real estate.
If I could see the future, I'd be a rich man, eh? I think, as I say, pre-COVID-19, the market was turning undoubtedly, both in terms of transactions first, and over a period of time, that would have an impact into prices. COVID-19 has come along, and COVID-19 is not an economic crisis in itself. And once we've got that beyond us, I would hope the human element, as we say, the desire to get the world going again, will limit some of the economic impact of COVID-19. Okay. However, I do expect that, my pre-COVID-19 view of transactions and prices have been obviously tempered from what's happened over the last period. What I think is likely to happen is that the summer's now upon us. I think transaction levels will find a transaction levels will find a level throughout the summer, and then likely to increase as we go into September and beyond. I would like to think that as this is a global crisis and this is happening throughout the world, Dubai is a bit of an opportunity destination. You know, people from around the world might be at the moment sat at home in various countries thinking, you know, I might have lost my job, or I need to do something different. Actually, now might be the opportunity to move to Dubai. And I would like to think that we see a bit of an influx of people over the next 12 months because of that. The other element I think that's interesting as we look at next year and beyond is obviously the shift of Expo. I think that's the right move, undoubtedly the best thing for us, for Expo to be moved. It means that we can restart the button, and we can get the Expo excitement going again from, you know, we can get the year countdown going again from this October, again for next year. And I think that will be very, very healthy for the market. And as I say, one of the key elements is we're starting to see peak supply. Last year, this year, we're starting to see peak supply. So as we go into next year and the years beyond, supply of new properties in the market is starting to tail down. And with everything that's happening, it's unlikely that a lot of developers start launching new projects over this period of time that would change that view. So what I'm getting at, I guess, is my predictions for, my forecast for this year is a little bit as you are. I think it'll be fairly flat for the rest of the year, but I hope as we go into 2021, confidence returns to the world. You know, your big question earlier, when does COVID-19 get resolved? That will have a huge impact into the confidence of the world. And I actually think 2021, 22, 23 could be very good years for real estate, getting a very good year for prices. So going back to one of your earlier questions, when would you buy? I think a buyer of property in 2019, 2020, if they look ahead over a few years, would look back and think that's a good time to buy, certainly.
Great. Thank you, Richard. Thanks very much. Richard, what do you think? What companies should be doing in order to be profitable in COVID-19, in current situation?
You need to make sure that you have your costs under control. You know, so that's obviously a very sensible position to take over this period of time. You need to look for the opportunities within the market, and then you need to work incredibly hard. This is not a market at the moment for putting your feet up and resting on your laurels. Okay, this is a market for rolling your sleeves up, every single one in the organisation, and working incredibly hard, because there's opportunity out there. Undoubtedly, there's opportunity out there.
For example, let's say, what will be Better Home strategy from now onwards?
I mean, our strategy, frankly, in many ways hasn't changed. So prior to this, our strategy was growth. We are a 35-year-old business, and over the 35 years of any company, the company goes through different periods, different iterations. We entered a new period for the Better Homes group, as we now are, about 18 months ago, 2 years ago, when we started growing both Better Homes as an individual brokerage and the wider group. So our strategy for the next 5 years is to continue that growth and grow both the Better Homes mothership, as I call her, but also a stable of other businesses and other brokerages that work alongside Better Homes. We've currently now got 3 brokerages. We've got CRC, we've got Ascot & Co, and we've got Better Homes. Each one focusing on certain parts of the market. And the reason we've really done that is to give customers choice. You know, customers like choice. Customers like different feels and having that choice within any marketplace. So for us, being able to offer different customers a choice of brokerages is a good way for us to ensure market share. So that hasn't changed. I suppose the other strategy for a lot of people at the moment is digitalization, automation. Again, the strategy hasn't changed. It's just the timescales are changing a little bit. You go into a period of lockdown for 3 or 4 weeks, and very, very quickly, your digital plan that is, you know, on the desk is suddenly put up on the wall, and you know everyone's staring at it very, very intently. So the plan behind automation and digitalization to complement brokerage not to replace brokerage, but to complement brokerage, is at the forefront of what we're doing at the moment, and will be a big part of the Better Homes group over the next 4 to 6 months. Because it's, the thing about digitalisation and tech is it takes investment, it takes time. It's not something you just click your fingers and it's.
Richard, you've got several brokerages, CRC, another one. Yes, correct, Ascot and Co. Aren't they competing with each other?
Yes.
They're competing with each other.
Yes.
Oh.
that's not a problem. So I'll explain. So CRC is the commercial real estate consultants. They just do commercial. So no, they don't compete with Ascot and Better Homes. But Ascot and Co is a villa specialist brokerage. Now we have villa specialist brokers in Better Homes working in the same patch. That's not a problem, because last time I checked, there's a lot of other brokerages that I'm in competition with. What actually it does to have a multi-branded business, as I said earlier, gives choice. It gives choice to the customer. Some people want to use Better Homes. Okay, some people want to use us because we're the biggest, certainly the oldest name in town, very trusted, great name, great brand. However, there'll be some people in this world who don't want to use the big company. They want to use the small, little independent, bespoke, boutique company. That's not a problem. We now have both. So that's just one example, Ahmed. But I think a multi-branded, multifaceted business really helps us grow our market share as a group, and it's worked very, very well. So actually, the Ascot Co guys and the Better Homes guys, they're like brother and sister. They compete with each other, but for the same
healthy competition.
Parents, but they work well together. And what's really happened, this has been great, is they do a lot of deals with each other. So we cross-pollinate with our sellers and buyers from both sides. We make sure if we list on one side, we make sure the buyers and sellers dealing on the other side are made aware of it, and we put some great deals together. So it's from that point of view, it's been incredibly successful.
Richard, for example, let's say, do you use the same operations, the same strategies, and the same processes in all of these companies?
No. Each company has to be. It only works if each company is an independent company with its own culture, and to a certain level, that means its own processes. Now, of course, some of the back end is centralized. We have centralized accounts, centralized marketing, centralized HR, centralization, centralized product. So there's a lot of centralization, which obviously brings economies of scale and all other benefits to it. But each business, as we grow, and we are likely to look at adding maybe 2 more this year, so we may go up to 5 brokerages this year. We'll certainly be going up to 4 in the next couple of months. Has its own leadership, has its own culture, has its own way of doing things, all compliant, obviously, in terms of processes with DLD and RERA and all the rest of it, because that's part and parcel of Better Homes. We've worked with RERA hand in hand for 15 years. So we do everything right, we're doing it in the right way, but the culture within each of the businesses is very independent. It's of its own. Which
and different offices.
Different offices, different. We actually have shared offices, but just in parts of the offices. So different. It feels like 2 different offices when you go in there. Shared meeting rooms.
Okay.
Yeah.
Richard, for example, what if some broker who works in Ascot and Co, if he wants to move to Better Homes, is it tolerated?
Say it again, sorry.
For example, let's say a broker working in one company in the Better Homes group, can he move to another company?
I think that's like anything. So I've got offices. If I had a broker in one office that wanted to move to a different office, we would have a conversation with that broker and see if it's the right thing for them or the right thing for the company. It actually hasn't happened. We've not had a broker asked to move. We've had a couple of brokers move from residential into commercial, so from Better Homes into CRC. But what actually there is there's some real friendly rivalry between Ascot and Co and our Better Homes guys. they get on very, very well together. We do some combined incentives. So we go to Beirut. The last couple of years we've been on Beirut on a trip, and we take a couple of the Gascot guys, a couple of the Better guys, and all go well, and all the rest of it. But there's a real rivalry between them. So the Ascot guys love being Ascot, and the Better guys love being Better, and that's great, you know. And they are competitive. They're competitive in terms of getting sales done. They're competitive in terms of listings. You know, they may both have the same listing, and it's who gets there first, who sells the property wins.
But by the way, we have got a really interesting question about listings and being area specialist. I'll just read it. It's sent to me in private. In Better Homes, are your agents specializing in areas? If one agent receives a lead for not his area, will you give him this lead still?
Yeah, so we work as area specialists, absolutely. And I think that is undoubtedly the future of real estate. And if you look at successful real estate brokers, successful realtors across the world, they tend to be area specialists. And if you look at the very best here in Dubai, the very best specialists here, brokers here in Dubai, they don't go beyond their patch. You know, I look at the best guys on the park, never leave the park. Best guys in Emirates Hills, never leave Emirates Hills. So yeah, absolutely, we're area specialists, but we're area specialists predominantly in the point of listing. So our guys will list within an area, but it's also important to be able to cross-sell. It's really important to be, if I've got a buyer who decides, for example, that Emirates Living is looking a little bit old, I need to be able to say, well, let me show you 2 or 3 new EMAR communities, for example. So our guys are allowed to cross-sell. So they would take their lead from their area and take them into another area and do a deal with a broker who has a listing in another area. That's just good brokerage.
Okay. So another question that we have got here, is Better Homes hiring, or did they put a freeze on hiring for the year?
No, absolutely not. No. So we're hiring. We've actually just we are midway through our second induction week since lockdown. So the week after lockdown, we had an induction week set up, and then obviously went into lockdown. Those employees came in the week after we opened up and did a lot of their training digitally, remotely, and as you were. And then this week we've got another training group of brokers in at the moment. Obviously, we're not hiring from abroad. We've always had a very diverse team here, and we have a very diverse hiring strategy. So we hire both locally experienced and non-experienced brokers. We will hire experienced sales individuals here in Dubai, and obviously we'll bring in experienced brokers. And then internationally, we will hire in salespeople and experienced real estate people from abroad. But obviously, we're not hiring from abroad at the moment until the flights come. Although we have, I think we have 30 or 40 individuals from across the world who are ideally waiting to get on planes to come and work in either one of the 3 brokerage companies. So yeah, absolutely, we're hiring. It's a good time, as I say. Leasing have had a very, very, very successful month, and some of our new leasing team have had an incredibly successful month. We've got a guy called Tiago who's been with us 2.5 months. Did rooms in leasing last month. I mean, there's a great opportunity. So no, absolutely, we're hiring.
Okay, so here we got another question. What is the best lead generator for Better Homes? So where you get most of the leads? Richard, disclose secrets.
This is a little bit. Look, the majority of our leads, just over 50% of our leads come from the 3 main portals. So Property Finder, Bayut, and Dubizzle. Okay, so we're big investors in property portals. And have been for many, many years, and work very, very closely with them. But we then generate an awful lot of our own leads through our own digital marketing campaigns. And frankly, the brokers, it's the broker's job to generate leads as well, are also incredibly important in that. So brokers will network, brokers will get referrals, brokers will reach back out and speak to people that have dealt with Better Homes in the past. So it really is a mix, and I think that's important. You can't rely on one lead source and a good broker shouldn't be passively sat there waiting just for leads to come into them. So yeah, it's a real mix, but it's roughly 50% portals and 50% generated by the company.
Here we got maybe this question, maybe for most probably from the company owner. What Better Home does in order to avoid outside deals? What Better Home does in order to avoid outside deals? So, for example, some agents might be closing outside, for example, doing deals, renting in a property, taking commissions, and not reporting it to the company. What Better Home does to be protected from this?
You know, this is a sad truth of the Dubai property. One of the sad truths of the Dubai property market. There aren't many, but you know, from time to time it happens. It doesn't happen in better homes, I don't think, very often. Certainly, we are very careful in terms of who we hire. You know, the bar is high to come and work here. We train our people incredibly well. We invest in our people incredibly well. We invest in we give our people opportunity. We ensure that they have the tools to do the job. We ensure that they have more leads than anybody else. And we ensure that they know that they are well regarded and they're looked after and they can come and speak to us. So the biggest defense we have against somebody trying to do deals outside, or I call it against the company, is to ensure that there is real connection and buy-in to the company, you know. And we celebrated this year a lady called Tessa. Tessa is a commercial broker in CRC, which is Better Homes. She's been with us for 20 years as a broker. I have another broker called Sana, who is 21 years as a broker here in Better Homes, and they are.
Wow.
Tessa was #1 broker in commercial last year after 20 years. I have,
wow.
I've got 20 brokers that have been with us over 10 years. So I think when people come into the business, they see that. We've also got lots of, you know, fresh and hungry and energetic agents that are new to the business. But they come in and they see that within the organisation and they realise that this is something different. This isn't just your typical fly-by-night real estate brokerage that's been in 5 minutes. Okay? And I think people genuinely buy into what we do here, how we treat people here, and that stops most of those practices. However,
right.
you know, I have seen it happen here once or twice, and we take a fairly swift view on it. You know, if everything we do comes from our ability to invest for our brokers. Yeah, and if you are then doing deals outside, you're effectively taking money out of everybody else's pocket. So we just don't stand for it. It's a one chance opportunity, and you only get one chance, and you don't get it again.
Yeah. Thank you, Richard. Thank you. Interesting. That's really inspiring that you have 21 years working in Better Homes. Like, wow, it means a lot. Okay. What should someone do to pass the interview in Better Homes? So maybe let's say agents, or okay, what should agent do in order to pass the interview in Better Homes? What personality traits he must have, and what's, let's say, some salary based employee, like some admin or some manager, should do in order to pass the interview in Better Homes?
Okay, look, I mean, in terms of agents, what do you look for in an agent? You look for somebody who has honesty and integrity, but somebody who is driven, and you need somebody who is driven, resilient, and willing to really roll their sleeves up and make it happen. You can, you know, so everyone on this call knows the opportunity to earn incredibly well in real estate is phenomenal, but it's hard work, and it should be hard work, and you should be. Finton's just said, "Have a pulse." Thanks, Finton. You know, we look for that sort of drive, that energy. What personality type? Right, I do a training session with our new starters, and we draw a broker on the wall, and we then talk about personality. What's it take to be successful? We go through lots of things, from knowledge and experience to drive and communication skills, all these sort of things. And one of the things that always comes up is, you know, do you need to be an extrovert or an introverted character? Because a lot of our people are fairly extrovert? And I always sort of say no. You know, you don't need to be an extrovert to be. You don't need to be a sort of bouncing off the wall character to be a successful real estate broker. In fact, some of the very, very, very best real estate brokers I've met are fairly introverted individuals, but they're incredibly driven, they're incredibly well organized, and they're incredibly good one-to-one communicators. So it really, we've got, I mean, when I say we're a diverse team, we're a broad church. We've got people from all over the world, we've got people of all different ages, and we've got all different character types. But the one thing that sort of unites everybody is the drive to succeed, a bit of healthy competition, and you know, a genuine strong feeling for the company, the brand that we work for. So, you know, bring those traits to an interview, and you'll get a job. Going back to your question about salaries, you know, it wouldn't be right for me to talk about salaries for my people here on an open forum like this. But if anyone is looking for work, you know, feel free to send me through any CVs.
Oh, that's that will be a really great opportunity for people. Richard, another question that we have got. What support do you provide to brokers, and what platforms do you use? Maybe CRM, what CRM do you use, or what platforms, and what tools do you provide brokers?
Yeah, okay, so we're on PropSpace, which is fairly well known, the Dubai CRM system. In terms of tools we provide our brokers, we have, as I said, we're very heavily investing into lead generation, both on portals and not on portals. In 2019, we were the #1 lead generator on DoBizzle, #2 on Property Finder. The year before, we were #1 on Property Finder and DoBizzle. And last year, we were the Property Finder Brokerage of the Year. So, you know, we give our guys a platform to be successful by ensuring that they've got those tools in place. But beyond that, I think undoubtedly, and this isn't just since I've been here, we've always led the way in this. You know, in terms of training our staff, I think we are second to none. And that's not just new staff, that is training throughout people's careers, because, you know, the mistake a lot of people make is they invest 80% of their training onto people in the first week or two, and then forget the guys and girls that have been there for 1, 2, 3 years. And we make sure that our sales guys, despite how long they've been there, are at least going through an hour's training with myself or the head of leasing or head of sales every single month. We call it the car wash, and every month we pick a topic and we get everyone in and we go through it. So, you know, from support in terms of management support, I genuinely think we give an incredibly strong platform to anyone joining us. And we have a bit of fun while we're doing it. We don't take ourselves too seriously.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Richard. Thank you so much for your time. It was really nice and great talking to you. Unfortunately, we're very limited in time. I got many questions there. I can't read them all. And the last question, which I have to read, what would you advise to Dubai Land Department and to Dubai Real Estate Institute?
Well, I've got to be careful what I say now. So what but I think the Dubai Land Department and DREI and the Dubai Real Estate Institute do an incredible job. I think what the Dubai Land Department could do at the moment is look anything that we can do to help the economy to stimulate it on a wider front, and then obviously the property market to be stimulated on a wider front. So the two things that are limiting to demand that are within the control of the powers that be are the DLD fees. So potentially a short-term review of DLD fees.
Good point.
And have a look at what we're doing in terms of the mortgage cap. You know, the mortgage cap, I think, has come down to 20%, which is welcome, but I think you don't, and as they've done actually, you don't need to take a one-size-fits-all view on this. You can have an approach to deposits for people who've been in Dubai for a longer period of time, who are purchasing as a home rather than an investment. And there are other, you know, mortgage cap is quite a blunt instrument. There are other ways to ensure that people can afford what they're buying and then can be held to any mortgage that they take out. So those are the two things. reviewing the fees and maybe further look at that mortgage cap. But beyond that, I think I'd like to thank the Land Department and RERA and DREI for everything you guys do.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Richard. Thank you for your precious time you've given.
Thank you.
It was really interesting.
My friend Hip is on it, so quick.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for watching. This video will be published and the text will be published. We'll share the link with you all. Thank you, Richard. Thank you. This was a Richard from Group Managing Director from one of the main leading real estate company in Dubai, Better Homes. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Stay safe all. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.